There is a date sitting on the calendar right now that will decide how much money lands in your bank account every month for the rest of your life. And almost nobody in your household is talking about it. The year is 2034. That is the year the Social Security trustees, the government's own accountants, project that the combined retirement trust fund will run short of the money it needs to pay every promised dollar. Not 2094, not some distant fantasy your grandchildren will deal with. 2034. That is closer to today than the last time you replaced your roof for a lot of you watching. And here's the part that should make you sit up. If Congress does nothing before that date arrives, the trustees project an automatic across-the-board cut of roughly 17 to 24% to everyone's checks. Not a cut for the wealthy, not a cut for someone else. Yours. So before you tell yourself this is political noise you can ignore, understand that a real clock is running, and the choices you make in the next few years determine whether that clock hurts you or barely touches you. Let me turn that scary date into a number you can actually feel, because percentages are easy to shrug off. The Social Security Administration says the average retired worker's benefit in 2026, after the cost of living increase, is about $2,071 a month. That figure comes straight from the SSA's own 2026 fact sheet. Now take a 17% cut off that check. That is roughly $350 a month. Gone. Or about $4,200 a year vanishing from a household that in many cases is living close to the line already. For a couple both collecting, you could be looking at losing the equivalent of 2 or 3 months of income across the year. This is not me trying to frighten you into anything. This is arithmetic on the government's own published numbers. The window between now and 2034 is the window where you still have moves to make. After the cut, if it comes, your options shrink dramatically. Before it, they are wide open. That gap is exactly what this video is about. Now, I want to be completely straight with you because there is a lot of fear-mongering out there and I refuse to add to it. Social Security is not going bankrupt and disappearing. Even in the worst projected case where Congress does absolutely nothing, payroll taxes keep flowing in from every working American, and those taxes alone are projected to cover somewhere around 3/4 to 4/5 of promised benefits. So the realistic risk is not $0. The realistic risk is a smaller check than you were counting on, arriving right when you can least afford a surprise. History also tells us Congress has fixed this before, in 1983, right up against a similar deadline. But here's the thing nobody says out loud. Every fix they have ever passed changed the deal for somebody. Some people paid more, some waited longer, some saw benefits taxed that never used to be taxed. The question is not whether the rules could change. The question is whether you will be positioned to absorb it. And that positioning has its own deadlines, which is exactly what I am going to walk you through. Before we go further, I need to talk to two groups who are about to make the same mistake for opposite reasons. The first group says, I barely get by on Social Security as it is. There is nothing I can do about Washington, so why torture myself watching this? I understand that feeling completely, and I am telling you gently that you are exactly who this matters most for. Because the people with the thinnest margins are the ones a benefit cut would hurt worst, and there are protections and claiming strategies that can shield you that you may not know exist. Low income does not mean no options. It often means more options you have never been shown. The second group says, I have a healthy nest egg, my pension is solid, Social Security is just pocket change to me, so a cut is irrelevant. I hear you too, and I still need you. Because if you are a higher earner, there are timing and tax moves around your benefit that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars over your retirement. And the rules that govern those moves are among the first things lawmakers tend to touch. Whether your margin is razor thin or comfortable, this window has your name on it. Here is the single idea I want you to carry through this entire video. Being eligible for a benefit is not the same as receiving the full benefit you are owed. The Social Security Administration will send you a check, yes, but it will not call you to say you claimed at the wrong age and left tens of thousands of dollars on the table. It will not knock on your door to tell you your spouse could be collecting on your record, or that a survivor benefit you never applied for is sitting there unclaimed. The system pays what you ask it to pay, in the way you set it up, and it does not volunteer the smarter path. Right now, across the country, there are two people with nearly identical work histories, and one is collecting hundreds of dollars a month more than the other, purely because one of them understood the timing and the other one did not. The money exists. The rules exist, but they sit there untouched until you reach out and claim them correctly. And some of those choices are one-time doors that close on specific dates. That is why a video about change is really a video about action. I am Emma Smith. I am a state bar licensed estate attorney, and I have spent more than 15 years sitting across the table from families untangling benefits, timing, taxes, and the paperwork nobody ever warned them about. I want to be honest about why I am making this particular video now rather than sitting on it. I do not chase headlines for clicks. I am making this because the funding projections got updated this year. The conversation in Washington is heating up, and I would rather you hear a calm, accurate version from someone with no product to sell than a panicked version from someone who wants to scare you into buying gold coins or an annuity. Let me be clear about what I get from this, which is nothing on the sales side. I do not sell insurance. I do not sell investments. I do not take a commission if you claim early, late, or in between. I do not make a single dime from your Social Security decisions. My only goal is that you walk into the next few years having made choices on purpose instead of by default. And because I am a lawyer but not your lawyer, hear this clearly. Verify everything I say against the Social Security Administration directly, and for your own numbers, sit with a licensed financial planner or benefits counselor before you act. In 15 years, I have watched the same quiet tragedy repeat, and it almost never involves someone being reckless. It involves someone being passive, because passive felt safe. A retired bookkeeper named Gloria once told me she had claimed her benefit at 62 because everybody does, never realizing that waiting would have locked in a permanently larger check for the rest of her life, and for her surviving husband after her. Nobody sat her down and showed her the trade-off. She found out from me years too late to undo it. So today, I am going to sit you down and show you the trade-offs while you still have time to use them. I have organized this around the calendar, because deadlines are where good intentions either become real money or evaporate. We will cover what you should do this week, what you should lock in before the next benefit year turns over, and what you must not let slip before the funding decision forces everyone's hand later this decade. Stay with me because there is one more deadline hidden inside this whole story, and it is the one nobody sees coming until it has already cost them. I will show you exactly where it hides. Let us start with this week, and the very first thing is not a decision, it is a checkup. I want you to create or log into your account at SSA.gov, the official government site, and pull up your Social Security statement. This is free, it takes about 10 minutes, and it is the single most important document most people never look at. Your entire benefit is calculated from your earnings record, the year-by-year history of what you earned and paid taxes on. And here is the part that shocks people. That record contains errors more often than you would guess. An employer reports a wrong number. A name change after marriage scrambles a year. A period of self-employment never gets posted. Every missing or understated year quietly shrinks your check, permanently, unless you catch it and fix it. This week, pull that statement and go line by line comparing it against your own memory and any old tax records or W-2s you can find. If a year looks wrong or shows 0 when you know you worked, that is a flag. If you find an error, here is exactly what to do, because this is where eligibility turns into real money. Gather your proof, meaning your W-2 form, a pay stub, or a tax return for the year in question, and contact the Social Security Administration to request a correction to your earnings record. You can call them at 1-800-772-1213 or visit your local field office. And you generally want to keep copies of everything you submit. There is a general time limit of about 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days to correct a given year's earnings, though there are exceptions for clear employer errors, which is exactly why this week matters and not someday. Picture a man I will call Raymond, a retired contractor in Texas. When he finally checked his record, 2 full years of self-employment income were missing because a filing had never posted correctly. Getting those 2 years added recalculated his benefit upward by around $90 a month. Over a 20-year retirement, that one afternoon of paperwork was worth more than $20,000 to him. The money was always his. He just had to claim it by fixing the record. While you have that statement open this week, let me give you the current 2026 numbers to anchor yourself against, because you cannot judge your situation without the yardstick. Full retirement age, the age at which you get 100% of your benefit, is now 67 for everyone born in 1960 or later, and that is confirmed by the SSA. You can claim as early as 62, but doing so permanently reduces your check by around 30%. Or you can delay past full retirement age and earn delayed retirement credits that grow your benefit by about 8% for every year you wait, all the way up to age 70. Let that sink in, because it is the most powerful lever most people never pull. The maximum benefit for someone retiring at full retirement age in 2026 is about $4,152 a month, while claiming at 62 caps out far lower. The cost of living adjustment for 2026 was 2.8%, and the average retired worker check, again, is about $2,071. Write those down. When someone online quotes you a number, you will know whether it smells right. So the big realization for this week is that the biggest factor in how much Social Security you get is not Washington at all. It is the age you choose to start. The difference between claiming at 62 and waiting until 70 can be a permanent increase of more than 70% in your monthly check for the exact same work history. And in a world where a future cut is possible, a bigger base benefit means that even a percentage reduction leaves you with more dollars in hand than a smaller base would. Read that idea twice in your own head, because it is the quiet hinge of your whole retirement. This week, all I want you to do is pull your statement, check your record, and start honestly asking yourself what claiming age fits your health, your savings, and your family situation. You do not have to decide today, but you do need to know the lever exists and which direction it moves. That was the foundation. Now here's what changes as we move from checking your record to protecting your check against the very changes Washington might make. The next block is what you want handled before the next benefit year turns over, because these are decisions that compound the longer you wait to understand them. And the first one is the benefit that families miss more than any other: spousal and survivor benefits. Here is the rule that shocks people. If you are married, you may be able to collect a spousal benefit worth up to half of your husband's or wife's full retirement benefit, if that is more than what you earned on your own record. If you are divorced but were married at least 10 years, you may still be able to claim on your former spouse's record, and they never even have to know. And when one spouse in a couple passes away, the survivor generally gets to keep the larger of the two benefits, not both, which is exactly why the higher earner's claiming age matters so much for the person left behind. These are not loopholes. They are written into the law. But the Social Security Administration does not chase you down to hand them over. You must ask. Let me make this real with a couple I will call Frank and Wilma, retirees in Florida. Frank was the higher earner, and he was tempted to claim early at 62 because he was tired of waiting. What he had not thought through was Wilma. Because a survivor keeps the larger of the two checks, Frank claiming early would have permanently shrunk not just his own benefit, but the check Wilma would live on for potentially 15 or 20 years after he was gone. Once he understood that, Frank chose to delay, and by waiting, he locked in a substantially larger benefit that became Wilma's floor for the rest of her life. That single decision could be worth well over $100,000 to her across her remaining years, depending on how long she lives. This is the kind of thing that never shows up on a form and never gets explained at the counter. It only surfaces when someone sits down and looks at the household as a whole. If you are married, the two of you need to make this decision together, on purpose, before you claim. The second thing to handle before the next benefit year is the working question, because a huge number of you are still earning something, and the rules here trip people constantly. If you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and you keep working, there is an earnings test. In 2026, if you are under full retirement age all year, you can earn up to $24,480 before Social Security starts withholding $1 of benefits for every $2 you earn above that limit. In the year you actually reach full retirement age, the limit jumps way up to $65,160, and the withholding softens to $1 for every 3 earned over it. Those are the SSA's 2026 figures. Now here's the part almost nobody knows, and it is genuinely good news. The money withheld under the earnings test is not lost forever. Once you hit full retirement age, Social Security recalculates and gives it back to you in the form of a higher monthly benefit. But you should know all this before you claim, not after. So you can time your work and your claim to avoid an unpleasant surprise. The third item for this block is one that quietly eats into checks every single year and is a prime target whenever lawmakers go looking for money: the taxation of your Social Security benefits. A lot of people are stunned to learn that their benefits can be taxed at all. Whether they are depends on something called your combined income, which is your adjusted gross income plus any non-taxable interest plus half of your Social Security. For a single filer, once that combined income crosses $25,000, up to half your benefits can become taxable, and above $34,000, up to 85% can be. For a married couple filing jointly, those thresholds are $32,000 and $44,000. Here is the sting. Those thresholds were set decades ago and were never indexed to inflation, so every year quietly pulls more retirees into paying tax on benefits they thought were safe. Before the next benefit year, sit down with a tax professional and look at whether smart timing of withdrawals from your other accounts could keep you under a threshold. That is a legitimate, legal move, and it can save real money. Before we leave this block, I want to hand you two little-known escape hatches, because people assume claiming is permanent, and it is not always so. First, if you claimed your benefit and regret it within the first 12 months, you can file a withdrawal of application, pay back what you received, and reset as though you never claimed, essentially a one-time do-over. Second, even past that window, if you have reached full retirement age, you can voluntarily suspend your benefit and let it grow with delayed credits until 70. Both of these have strict conditions, so confirm with Social Security before you rely on them. The point is that some doors you think slammed shut are actually still cracked open, but only for a limited time. Get these handled and understood before your next benefit year, and you are far ahead of the crowd. Now here is what changes as we look past the next year and toward that funding date on the horizon. And this is where that hidden deadline I promised you finally comes into view. This third block is about the years between now and that 2034 funding date, and it is where you stop reacting and start positioning. Every serious proposal Congress has floated to shore up Social Security falls into a handful of buckets, and knowing them tells you where to brace. Lawmakers could raise the payroll tax rate. They could lift the cap on taxable earnings, which in 2026 sits at $184,500, meaning income above that is not currently taxed for Social Security. They could gradually raise the full retirement age again, which is effectively a benefit cut dressed in different clothes. They could change the cost of living formula so future raises come slower. Or they could adjust benefits for higher earners while protecting lower earners. Notice the pattern. Almost every fix hits future claimants and younger retirees harder than people already well into retirement. That is the historical tendency, which means the closer you are to claiming and the sooner you lock in your strategy, generally the more insulated you are from whatever they decide. Waiting passively is the one move that leaves you most exposed. Here is the hidden deadline I have been promising you, and it is not printed on any government letter. It is the gap between now and the moment reform actually passes. History shows that when Congress finally fixes Social Security, they almost always grandfather in people who are already at or near retirement age, protecting them from the harshest changes while asking younger folks to absorb more. That means there may be a real advantage to having your claiming strategy settled, and for some of you, to actually being in the system before the rules change under you. This is not me telling you to panic claim early, because as we discussed, claiming early permanently shrinks your check, and that is usually the wrong move. It is me telling you that the decision of when and how to claim deserves your full attention now, in this window, while you still control it, rather than after a reform bill has rearranged the board. The hidden deadline is not a date on a calendar. It is the closing of your own window of maximum choice, and it closes quietly. So what do you actually do in this longer window? 3 concrete things. First, build a benefit timing plan on paper, ideally with a fee-only financial planner who does not earn commissions. Mapping out claiming at 62 versus full retirement age versus 70 for both you and your spouse, and comparing the lifetime totals. Second, diversify so you are not 100% dependent on Social Security. Even modest savings in a retirement account, a bit of home equity you could tap, or a small pension gives you a cushion that a benefit cut cannot fully knock out. If a 17% reduction would be a catastrophe rather than an inconvenience, that tells you exactly how urgently you need other income sources. Third, stay informed through the official source, SSA.gov, and ignore the fear merchants trying to sell you something off the back of this anxiety. When reform is debated, watch specifically for the effective dates and the grandfather clauses, because those 2 details will tell you more about your own situation than any headline. Position now, and whatever Congress does, you land on your feet. Let me show you positioning done right through a woman I will call Estelle, a retiree in Michigan who came to this with real fear after reading a scary article. Estelle was 63, still working part-time, and terrified the whole system would vanish. We did 3 things. We pulled her statement and found her record was accurate, which gave her peace of mind. We ran her claiming ages and discovered that because she was healthy and still earning, delaying from 63 towards 67 would raise her eventual check meaningfully and, just as importantly, give her a larger base that would blunt any future percentage cut. And we made sure her modest 401k and her paid-off home gave her a backstop so that even a worst-case reduction would be survivable rather than devastating. Estelle did not do anything dramatic. She simply stopped being passive and made deliberate choices inside the window she still had. She told me later that the fear lifted the moment she realized she had moves, and that she was not just waiting to be a victim of a headline. That shift from passive to deliberate is the entire point. Let me be very direct about what happens to the people who hear all this and still do nothing, because the cost is real even though it is invisible. Nothing dramatic happens tomorrow. No letter arrives. That is precisely the danger, because the loss accumulates silently. The person who never checks their earnings record keeps collecting a check that is smaller than it should be, month after month, for 20 or 30 years, never knowing an error robbed them. The person who claims early without understanding survivor benefits leaves a spouse with a permanently reduced check they will live on alone. The person who never diversifies gets blindsided when a reform actually passes, with no cushion to absorb it. Gloria, the bookkeeper I mentioned at the start, lost real money every single month for the rest of her life from one uninformed decision at 62, and she could never take it back. That is the trap of a slow, quiet consequence. It does not shout. It just drains dollar by dollar from a household that never sees the single big moment where it went wrong. And there is a second consequence to inaction that is more sinister, because it involves people who prey on exactly this fear. Whenever Social Security is in the headlines, the scammers come out in force. So hear this rule and never break it. The Social Security Administration will never call, text, or email you out of the blue, threatening to suspend your benefits, demanding you confirm your Social Security number, or telling you to pay a fee or buy gift cards to protect your account. That contact is a scam every single time, no exceptions. Real Social Security does not operate by threat and urgency, and it will never ask you to pay to keep money that is already yours. If you get one of those calls, hang up. And if you want to check on your account, you call them yourself at 1-800-772-1213 or go to SSA.gov using a number you looked up, not one someone gave you. You initiate the contact and you stay safe. Now, I do not raise consequences and scams to frighten you into freezing. I raise them so you act with clear eyes, because the flip side of every consequence is a move you can still make. If you do nothing else after this video, do this one thing. Go to SSA.gov, create or log into your account, and read your Social Security statement front to back this week. That single act is the hinge everything else turns on. It shows you your projected benefit at every claiming age, so you can finally see the real dollar difference between 62, 67, and 70 for your own record. It lets you catch and fix earnings errors before the time limit closes and quietly costs you for life. And it gives you the accurate numbers you need to have an honest conversation with your spouse or a planner about strategy and about cushioning yourself against a future cut. I make this the one priority because the most common, most preventable loss in the entire Social Security system is a person who claimed blindly, never checked their record, and never understood the levers they controlled. Break that pattern this week with one login. Everything else, the spousal timing, the tax planning, the diversifying, flows out of the clarity you get from that one document. It is free, it is fast, and it is yours. And please hear me, because this is where a lot of people quietly give up. You do not have to figure this out alone, and you do not have to pay a salesman to help you. The Social Security Administration itself will answer your questions for free at 1-800-772-1213 or at your local field office, and they can explain your specific numbers, though they are not allowed to tell you which claiming age to choose. For the strategy piece, look for a fee-only fiduciary financial planner, meaning someone legally obligated to act in your interest who charges a flat fee rather than earning commissions off products they sell you. Many communities also have free benefits counseling through senior centers and area agencies on aging. If the technology feels like a wall, ask a trusted adult child or grandchild to sit beside you for the 20 minutes it takes to set up your SSA.gov account. But never hand your login to anyone you do not fully trust. The help is out there, much of it free, and using it is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. The priority, one more time, is simple. Read your statement this week. To make every bit of this genuinely doable, I have put together a free one-page Social Security readiness checklist that you can print and keep by your phone or on the fridge. It walks you through everything in the order I gave it to you: how to pull your statement, what to look for when you check your earnings record, the exact 2026 numbers for full retirement age, the earnings test limits, and the tax thresholds. The questions couples must answer together about survivor benefits, and the phone number to correct an error or ask a question. It also lays out, in plain language, the main ways Social Security could change, and what each one would mean for you, so you can follow the news without getting spun up by the fear merchants. It costs nothing, I collect nothing from it, and there is no catch. Because as I told you, I do not make a dime from your benefit decisions. You will find the link in the description below this video. Print it, work through it this week, and you will have done more to protect your retirement than most people do in a decade. Now I need to ask you for something, and I need you to do it today, not next week. Because every week that passes is a week of choices ticking away for the person you are about to help. Think of one person in your life who leans on Social Security and has never once checked their statement or thought about their claiming strategy. A spouse, a sibling, a neighbor who worries out loud about the news but does not know what to actually do. Send them this video right now while it is in front of you. Text it, email it, or better yet, sit down beside them and set up their SSA.gov account together this week. Because remember what we started with. The benefits and protections in this system are real, but they sit untouched until someone reaches out and claims them correctly, and the window of maximum choice closes quietly for everyone. The person you share this with may never find it on their own, and the changes coming down the road will not wait for them to get around to it. You could be the reason someone claims wisely instead of blindly. That is not a small favor. That is the kind of thing a family remembers, so please, send it today. Let me tell you why I push so hard on the sharing, and then I will let you go. In 15 years, I have almost never met someone who lost money because they were foolish. I have met people who lost money because they were alone with a decision they did not understand and a system that never volunteered the smarter path, and nobody sat down beside them in time. The difference between the people who claim well and the people who lose out is very often just one other person who cared enough to say, "Let us look at this together before you decide." You can be that person for someone this week. It costs you a few minutes and a text message. And if enough of you share this, the folks who need it most, the ones most likely to claim blindly, the ones a future cut would hurt worst, actually get a chance to prepare in time. So think of your one person. Send it now. And do not let Gloria's story, or Frank and Wilma's near miss, repeat itself in your own family when a single conversation could prevent it. Before you go, if this gave you even one thing you did not know before, subscribe and tap the bell, because the rules around Social Security and retirement move every single year, and the changes that matter most to you will not announce themselves at your door. When the funding debate reaches a decision, when the 2027 numbers come out, when a reform bill actually starts moving, I want to be able to reach you in time before anything forces your hand. That is the entire reason I make these. Not to sell you anything, because I have told you plainly that I do not make a dime from your benefit decisions, but to make sure change never catches you flat-footed again. So here is your simple send-off. Log into SSA.gov and read your statement this week. Talk to your spouse about timing, and share this with the one person who needs it today. Do those 3 things, and you have already beaten the passivity that quietly costs almost everyone. I am Emma Smith. Thank you for spending this time with me. Verify everything with the Social Security Administration directly before you act, and I will see you in the next one, well before the next deadline. Take care of yourself, and take care of your people.